It is the beginning of May 2024 here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're looking at the housing market data. We've got the newest April data, what happened with home sales, home prices in the Albuquerque area, as well as I've got some long-term trends going to bring some perspective into the housing market. It's Tego Venturi with the Venturi Group of Real Broker giving you the market updates as I always do. And you can follow me, subscribe, whatever you'd like. I'm always putting out market data. I want to keep people very informed on what is happening with the real estate market. I'm just going to jump on this real quick just so we have some perspective. We're looking at the 30-year fixed rate mortgage chart. We have a one-year trend. And you can see it's been up and down and up and down. And we were up over 8% back in November. We're now just over 7 in that range, and it's been up over 7.5. So it's moving around. There's not a whole lot of predicting mortgage rates is a fool's game, to be honest with you. And so just wanted to give some perspective on where rates are today. And I'm not going to do any predictions on mortgage rates. All right, let's jump right here into the April market data. So what we're looking at is monthly data for home sales in the Albuquerque area. If you're looking at our chart here, we've got this broken down by different price ranges. We've got a lower price point, 1,000 and under, the 250 to 4, the 400 to 600,000 price range, and then the 600,000 and above. Overall, we're looking at closed sales here. We've had a 14% increase in the number of homes that sold in April of this year at 848 homes versus the 741 last year. You can see last year is pretty slow. It's actually really, really slow last spring. So we are up off those low numbers of last year. Next chart we're going to look at are the number of homes for sale. And this is our inventory. This is the number of homes available to sell. You can see we're up 27% from last year, came in at 1,339 based on this data. Of course, it just depends on what day of the month. Usually it's the last day of the month that you pick that. But you can see in that lower price point, we're down 21% in the number of homes on the market versus last year. Again, that's that $250,000 price range and below. Kind of, I would say almost needless to say, but we do know that the price points just continue to be driven up. And so in that lower price point, there just aren't as many homes. And so down 21, almost 22% in the low price point, but up about 31% in the higher end, let's call it the luxury market, 600,000 and above. All right, next chart we're going to jump to is the long-term trend on the number of homes for sale. So we can see here what we're looking at. This chart tracked in at 1,271 homes on the market for April. Again, a little bit different than my data, but it just depends on what day you pick it. And that's up, so it was 871. Last year it was 600 in April of 22. And boy, those were wild times back then. 21 was very low as well. And then if we go back to 2019 here, we had 2,311 homes on the market. So yes, it's increased from the lows we've had over the last 3 years. At the same time, we're still about 50% of what we were in, let's call it the normal year of 2019. And if we look at it from a nationwide standpoint, just again, to bring perspective into our market compared to other markets around the country, this is every county in the United States. And if we hover just over little Bernalillo County right there, we are minus 51% from April of 2019 to April of this year. And so, yes, we've had some more homes come in the market in the last, compared to the last 2 years, but at the same time, we're still quite a bit below those 2019 levels. However, you can see there are some markets, Texas in particular, Colorado, Kansas, there are getting some more homes on the market. It's really Texas and the Southeast. Louisiana, I know, has got a lot of homes on the market, and Florida in particular have had an increase versus what we've seen here. And I think a lot of that has to do with building and a lot of reasons behind that. But we are still in a deficit compared to the 2019. All right, let's jump back to the actual April data. And right now we're looking at the number of pending sales. So pending sales in April was 1,012. That's an 18% increase from last year. So we are seeing more traction. We are seeing more buyers out there. I've got another chart I'm going to show you, though, that contradicts that. So I'll get to that in a second here. But we are seeing more homes go under contract. So it does feel like there's people out there. There's a lot more activity than last year. And it's actually interesting because it's very comparable to what we had in 2022. All right. And by the way, this is all on our website at welcomehomeabq.com. These charts are just right from our website, so you can jump over there and check them out. All right. New listings. This has been an issue for the last few years where not as many people are putting their homes on the market. It's just been just very slow pace to put homes on the market. There's this thing called the lock-in effect and different challenges that just people are just staying in their home longer. And the lock-in effect, just so I can address that, I said it and then didn't really. That's where somebody has a very low interest rate and aren't really motivated to give up that 3% mortgage rate to get a 7% mortgage rate. So there are not as many people putting their homes on the market, and that's been a trend, and that seems to be continuing. So anyway, new listings up from last year, 27% here again across the board. Biggest increase was in the luxury market, up 50% from last year. And of course, again, in the low price point, it's down 13% from last year. And again, let's do some big perspective here. New listings. What we're looking at here is the annual number of new listings. So every month, it's a 12-month rolling data point. So if we look at April of this year, over the last 12 months, there's been 12,000 homes that have come on the market in the Albuquerque area. If you go back to this area from, let's say, 2014 all the way up and through even 2019, it was about 17,000. So about 5,000 less homes being listed for sale versus those kind of, let's call it the normal years of 2012, 2013, all the way up to 2019. However, this is an interesting, if you're looking at the chart, you can see this huge spike back here in 2000 and just shy of 30,000 homes came on the market in 2007. We know what happened after that. And it's a good perspective when we talk about our housing market and how you can't really compare to what happened back then to what's happening today's market, especially when we're talking about supply of homes. So starting to pick up. More people are starting to list. I think there's still some room to go there. It's just going to depend on how people, feel about where they're at with their home and what their interest rate is and what their cost to move is and all that stuff. All right. Month supply. This is our supply versus demand. This is a ratio of the number of homes on the market versus the number of homes going off the market. A lower number means that it's a much stronger seller's market. In this case, across all price points, we're at 1.7 months supply. That under 250, which I keep going back to, it's, a half a month. But the luxury market, it's about 3.7 months supply. So if you're in the luxury market, there's more choices. Homes are taking longer to sell. And that's, again, pretty common across price ranges. But what we're finding, even in that 250 price range, about 1 month supply, 1.3 months supply, which means good homes under the $400,000 are still selling at a relatively quick pace. There's still demand for those out there. All right, let's jump to, change a tab here. Average days on market. This kind of goes back to what we were just talking about month supply, but just how long it's taking homes to sell. On average, across all price ranges, it's 30 days on average. These are homes that are actually sold and closed in April. So these are homes that went under contract probably in February, March, and it took on average 30 days for those homes to go under contract from when they go on the market till when they're actually in contract. And we can see the higher price point, it's more like 45 days. The lower price points, it's 27 days in that, 250 to 400 range. So again, lower price points, more demand, more people looking for those homes than in the luxury market. All right, showings per listing. I alluded to this earlier, and this is the number of people looking at homes on the market. And it's an interesting data point because it tells us, okay, foot traffic, how many people out there looking at homes. And what we find is that this month for April, it was 6.7 viewings per home on the market. And that's an interesting data point. And it's interesting because at the same time we had increase in pending. So trying to understand, the dynamic there is it's a little complicated, but I think what's happening is there are not as many showings, but the people that are out there are serious buyers. And so there's not as much activity, but yet at the same time, homes are selling relatively quickly, especially in the low price points. All right, next data point, prices. We finally got the prices. We're going to look at median sale price for April, 345,000. Again, that's across all property types, single family detached as well as single family attached homes. 345,000. That's not an all-time high, but it's close, and that's median, so that's the middle price between all homes that sold in April. And I wanted to bring in the long-term trend on that as well. So we're looking at that chart again. We've got the 345 for this month. I think we had a 350 back last year. Yeah, we had our seasonal peak last year. And the reason I wanted to bring up this long-term trend, we're going back all the way to 2003. We can see our peak back in the 07, 08 period. And then starting somewhere around 2011, 2012, we've just had this year over year price increases. There's the seasonal up and down. And that's what I did want to point out. We generally always have some seasonal up and down in home prices in the Albuquerque market, especially when we're looking at median price, because we see bigger, more expensive homes selling earlier in the year and smaller, maybe a little bit less expensive homes selling later in the year. So that seasonal trend is pretty common. We did have a pretty good pullback in 2022, which you can see in this chart. All right. Price per square foot. This one, I've got one last, by the way, I have one last price chart I want to share with you because it's pretty interesting. I'll jump to that here in a second, long term. Price per square foot. So if we go back to median price, it was up 2.6% versus last April. But if we look at price per square foot, it's almost 9%, 8.9% increase from last year. We see that the lower price points up about almost 13%, 12.7% at $195 per square foot. The more luxury homes, the higher price points, only about 4% increase from a year ago. Again, the lower price point homes, they're appreciating faster, they're selling faster. The higher price homes, the luxury homes, not quite as, a little bit slower pace and not as much appreciation as we've had in the lower price points just because there's so much more demand there. All right. And then I already showed you this one. All right. Last chart. Yes, I promise. Last chart. Zillow Home Value Index. And I know some people don't like the way Zillow does their home value thing. And I would argue that home value, that Zestimate that Zillow does on individual properties can have some variation. But overall, what they're doing is they're looking at the entire market as an aggregate of all of it, and they're putting a value on every single home in the market, not what it's sold for, but at what they actually are estimating home values in our market. Of course, they're using sold data to do that. But it hit an all-time high in April at 333, almost $334,000 is the average price of a home in the Albuquerque area. And again, you can see in this chart, again, it mirrors what we saw in the price per square foot. For sold is we had a peak in 22 and then it pulled back. So this one is an interesting chart because it does show us this up and down that we've had over the years, a little bit of that seasonal ebb and flow. But at the moment, we're looking at all-time highs in home prices. And I'll give you one last tidbit. Looking at list prices for homes on the market right now, starting to see a little bit of, I don't want to say weakness, but it's not as strong. We're not seeing home prices being pushed up as high as we have in previous years compared to the previous year. So keep an eye on that. I think home prices are going to be running a little bit more flat this year, and we'll see how that trends out as we go through the rest of the year. If you got any questions about real estate, we are the Venturi Group with Real Broker here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You can reach us at 505-448-8888. If you made it to the end, thank you. But seriously, I love doing these reports, and if you've got any questions about real estate data here in the Albuquerque area, just reach out. Take care.